In the quiet town of Dalton, Illinois, surrounded by simple homes and peaceful streets, a remarkable story began to take shape, not through grand events or loud announcements, but through silent devotion, quiet strength, and endless love. In Maishi, a modest house far away from the grandeur of the Vatican, lived a woman named Mildred Agnes Provost. She wasn't famous, she didn't hold any titles, but her role in shaping one of the most important spiritual leaders of our time was more powerful than many will ever understand. Mildred was the mother of Robert Francis Provost, the man the world would come to know as Pope Leo XIV. Her life was filled with quiet sacrifices. She didn't dream of glory for her son. Her hopes were simpler but deeper. She wanted him to grow in faith, to be kind, to serve others, and to trust in God's plan. Every evening she whispered prayers beside his bed, asking God to guide and protect him. She lived her faith not through loud preaching, but through small acts of love and faithfulness. It was in the soft-spoken words, the patient teachings, and the unwavering presence that Robert found his foundation. Robert, or Bob as his friends called him, grew up in a house that didn't chase after attention. The Provost family lived in a rhythm of love, respect, and dedication. His father, a man of strong values and quiet leadership, worked diligently to provide for the family. Together, Mildred and her husband gave their children a strong sense of home, filled with warmth and spiritual direction. They didn't see themselves as extraordinary, but what they gave their son was exactly that, an extraordinary example of living faithfully every day. As a boy, Robert was not the loudest or the most outgoing, but he was deeply thoughtful, observant, and sensitive to the sacred. The small things mattered to him: the sound of church bells in the morning, the scent of incense during Mass, the hymns sung by the choir. These touched something deep in his soul. At St. Mary of the Assumption Parish in nearby Riverdale, he found a second home. The parish was a place of comfort, tradition, and purpose. It was there, under the guidance of priests and the encouragement of faithful teachers, that the seeds of his vocation were planted. He joined the parish choir, lending his voice to hymns that stirred the hearts of many. He served at the altar, learning the sacred patterns of the liturgy. But beyond all of this, what truly stood out about young Robert was his ability to notice the beauty in faith. He wasn't drawn by power or position. Instead, he was drawn to the deep meaning behind every gesture, every prayer, every moment of reverence. He found joy in service, peace in prayer, and purpose in devotion. Mildred watched her son's journey with quiet pride. She didn't push him toward any path. She simply supported him, prayed for him, and guided him with love. She taught him to listen to God's voice, to be patient with his calling, and to trust even when things weren't clear. She believed that God had a plan for everyone, and she surrendered her son to that plan, even if it meant letting go of her own wishes. As Robert grew older, his spiritual life deepened. He pursued studies in theology and immersed himself in the teachings of the Church. But no matter how far he traveled, whether in studies or later in missions, he carried with him the voice of his mother, the quiet encouragement, the steady faith, the deep love. Her example stayed with him through challenges, through doubt, through moments of decision. Robert's path eventually led him to religious life. He joined the Augustinian Recollect order, embracing a life of prayer, community, and service. His ministry took him across countries and cultures, from classrooms to church leadership, always bringing with him the humility and heart he learned at home. Those who worked with him spoke of his gentleness, his listening ear, his unwavering dedication to people. He wasn't one to seek attention. He didn't chase titles. Instead, he focused on what truly mattered, bringing Christ to others. When news broke that he would become Pope Leo XIV, many were surprised. He had never been in the spotlight. But those who knew him weren't shocked at all. They knew that his strength came not from ambition, but from deep roots. They knew that the boy who once knelt in quiet prayer in a suburban parish had grown into a man who understood the heart of the Church. And behind that man stood a woman whose story had never been told in headlines or documentaries. Mildred Provost, who lived her life out of sight, who never asked for anything, had raised a pope. Not through power, but through presence. not through control but through care, not through fame but through faith. Her love for her son, her dedication to her family, and her trust in God's plan became the bedrock of Robert's vocation. Every sermon he gave, every soul he comforted, every mission he led carried the quiet touch of her influence. The world may remember Pope Leo XIV for his leadership, his writings, his humility, and his vision for the Church. But heaven remembers the mother who helped shape his soul. As Pope Leo XIV often spoke about the importance of family, of listening to God in the small things, and of never underestimating the power of quiet faith. He shared stories of his upbringing, not to glorify his past, but to honor those who helped him become who he was. In private, he often recalled the prayers of his mother, the lessons she taught him at the kitchen table, and the strength she showed in moments of hardship. Mildred's story is a reminder that greatness in God's eyes doesn't always look like greatness in the world's eyes. She didn't wear crowns or receive awards, but she lived her vocation as a mother with complete faithfulness. And through her, the Church received a shepherd. This story is not just about a pope. It's about how love and faith can shape a life. It's about how small, faithful acts done in private can echo across the world. It's about a mother's love, a love so pure and strong that it prepared a boy to answer God's call. In our world, where so much focus is on success, achievement, and recognition, Mildred's life speaks a different truth. True greatness begins in the home. It begins with love that sacrifices, faith that never wavers, and hope that keeps praying even in silence. Pope Leo XIV carried many responsibilities, but one of the most precious treasures he ever carried was the memory and spirit of his mother. Her presence never left him, her prayers never stopped, and her legacy will continue to inspire not just those in the Church, but anyone who believes in the power of quiet, faithful love. In telling this story, we remember not just a pope, but the woman who helped form his soul, a woman who walked humbly, who served quietly, and who believed fully. Mildred Agnes Provost may not have stood in the spotlight, but she lit the path for her son, and through him for the world.